Hey guys, welcome to another Ultimate Edge webinar series. This is the one I've been waiting for a little while. I have my co-host Marcia Murphy with us. Hi Marcia, how are you today?
Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are.
There you go. And I know we have kind of a special guest, Marcia. I know you know her very well. Why don't you introduce Sloane for us, please?
It would be my honor. This beautiful, beautiful woman, I've known her for a while now. And Sloane, I don't even have words for her. She's a dynamic, very dynamic woman. Sloane is a mom. Sloane is an author, a best-selling author. She is a coach, everybody's coach. And she is a powerhouse of a real estate agent in Hawaii. And we're so thankful to have you, Sloane, and welcome.
Hi, everybody. Well, I am so excited to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited about all the things we're going to talk about today, and I just feel really, really honored to be here with you guys sharing this time.
So I know you, John sort of knows you, but our audience doesn't. So I'd like to start with your background, where you're from, who you are, your journey into real estate.
Sure.
So take it away, girl.
Okay, sure. So I am a realtor here in Hawaii. I first got licensed in 2006. Can you believe that? I can't even believe it because it is the year that my daughter was born and she is on her way to college. So wow. It's pretty crazy to me. My journey to real estate was really, to be honest, in the beginning, it was out of necessity. I was at the time a military wife. I got licensed in Hawaii and then we moved to Washington State. So I got licensed in Washington State, sold real estate there, came back to Hawaii, sold a little more real estate. And then I decided that I was going to take my shot at being an entrepreneur. So I went into business. Multiple different businesses spanning anywhere from the service industry. There was a period of time I owned a commercial cleaning company and a residential cleaning company. I sold that and I ended up opening a boutique. I had several stores on Oahu and I got to live out that dream. That was a crazy ride for anybody that has ever been in retail. It really taught me entrepreneurship, like I think nothing else can. It taught me commercial real estate. In Hawaii, I really cut my teeth, so to speak, in that entrepreneurial journey. And that kind of morphed into, it morphed into me helping other, primarily women, start and launch their own businesses as well. I ended up partnering with the Small Business Administration, the Patsy Mink Center for Women in Business and Leadership in Honolulu. And it's been a wild ride. And so I've had the honor and privilege to kind of work with a lot of people in helping them to pursue their dreams, whether that be entrepreneurship, traditional business, writing a book. I did end up doing that and helping other people to pursue their passions and kind of laid out the roadmap that I went through. Really not just sharing my struggles and how I was able to overcome them through gathering resources. Long story short, my journey back to real estate, maybe I shouldn't say back to real estate. For me, real estate was always a staple and a foundation. It's where I started my entrepreneurial journey, and it's where I find myself here again today. The reason why is because through helping people pursue their different entrepreneurial dreams, real estate for me was always at the center. And what I mean by that is it really helped to not just lay the foundation of financial stability through all of these different entrepreneurial endeavors. It helped me to be able to finance some of those dreams, whether that was in equity in my own house and or buying and selling real estate. So I guess ultimately, I would say that, real estate for me was always a personal passion. It ended up helping my entrepreneurial passions. And as I went through a huge change in my life, getting a divorce after 17 years of marriage, I started to ask myself, what am I going to do now to secure the financial future for myself and for my family? And in looking at the landscape in Hawaii in general, real estate really can be a pathway to helping us to be able to do that for ourselves and for the future generations. And I think that's one of the hot topics I know we're going to get into today. And so I'm excited to do that.
Wow. You know what, Sloane, you just brought so many memories back for me. It's like, oh my gosh, I remember that. Oh my gosh, the cleaning company. She came and cleaned my house.
I did. Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah. So, I know your passions. You are a passionate person. And I know one of your passions is finding dream homes for your clientele. I've seen you do it.
Yeah.
And I know another one of your passions is building relationships and maintaining relationships. You're so good at that. Can you speak to that?
Thank you.
Where that comes from?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think that in business and, and especially in sales, because ultimately let's call it what it is. That's what we do as we're consultants, but we're helping people in the sales process. That you really have to look at every single transaction as a relationship, looking at things relationally, not transactionally. The statistics are like, if we're talking to real estate agents who are watching this right now, right? If you're just getting started, I hate to be a Debbie Downer, but the odds are stacked against you, especially in our current market where things are changing so quickly. You have to look at the long-term goal. What is your business going to look like in 5-10 years from now? The person that you talk to today might not be ready until they're ready, until 5 years from now. And are you willing to build that relationship? And then when that transaction is done, are you willing to stay there and be friends with these people? Everybody that I work with, I can honestly say becomes a friend, becomes a part of my family, because that's how I treat them, because that's what matters the most. It doesn't matter if somebody is going to buy a house from me or not, right? Like, what matters is how am I going to impact their life? Like, how do I make somebody feel through the process, whether they buy or sell with me or not? That's the bottom line.
Well, you're very well loved, so we totally know that.
As are you.
And you're such an expert too, Sloane. So I know that there's a lot of radical changes going on.
Yes.
Yeah, and one of them being this lawsuit that is the media is speaking to every day, everywhere, consistently, and it's just got sellers, buyers, agents, everybody, it's such an unknown territory.
Yeah.
So John, can you kind of explain, maybe our listening audience doesn't know about the lawsuit. Can you just give a little background on that?
Sure. A little background, guys. So the National Association of Realtors and some major companies were included in a lawsuit by an attorney general of a state. I can't remember which one, a Midwest state. And it's been going on for quite some time, and it was settled recently. The lawsuit was stating basically that NAR was, the structure was causing agents to collude in their commissions.
Yeah.
And that was unacceptable business practices. It was ruled against the NAR, and consequently they settled for over $400 million. I don't remember the exact number, but it was a chunk of change. And the real estate venue, the community, the landscape that agents are dealing with now is changing radically. As of July 1st, there's some major changes there. And we're now saying that if the seller does not want to pay the buyer's agent's commission, they don't have to, and it's going to be difficult for buyer's agents to deal with that, because then does the buyer pay their commission? And there's a lot of confusion around this. And Sloane, I'm sure you can speak to that and add any clarity to what I have right there, and also lead us to how you think you should be dealing with that as a real estate agent.
Yeah, wow. Okay, so it was $418 million. But it's not just the monetary amount, it's the things that are associated with that. So basically, what this is a call for transparency in how real estate agents are paid.
Yes.
In particular, how buyers agents are paid through their commission. So ultimately, the old model, right, was that, well, here's what I'll say. First of all, in the field as an agent, I'm going to be really transparent here, because I guess that's what we're going to be doing. It is a little confusing. It is very confusing. I cannot tell you, and I'm sure if there are realtors listening right now, how many times I've had a buyer literally ask me, in just a recent transaction, after it was done, the buyer said, well, don't I owe you money? I need to pay you for your services. How do you get paid, Sloane? And I was like, oh, okay, yeah. So by the way, here's the process. Actually, Mr. Buyer, who I helped you to I'm glad you're happy. But guess what? The seller has actually basically paid my commission. And they kind of go, wait, what? How does that work? So let's just start there, let's just explain this. So ladies and gentlemen out there, if you are a consumer looking to sell your home, typically the standard, and I probably shouldn't even say that because that's what NAR got in trouble for. We never say the standard, but basically it's out there. It's about 6% of the purchase price. Your listing agent is going to offer what's called a cooperating compensation to a buyer's broker, buyer's agent. Typically, it's half of that 6%. So the listing agent gets paid 3%. The buyer's agent would get paid the other 3%. The sellers said, well, we don't like that. Why don't buyers take care of the compensation for their own agents? Ultimately, the judge said, okay, you're right. And so the National Association of Realtors, other brokerages, and MLS now have to have a decoupling of commission. That's what they're calling it, right? And what that means is some buyers are not going to have representation anymore. Some buyers maybe don't need it. Some buyers maybe do need it. We don't know. All of this is still coming out, and I'm kind of calling it, John, Marsha. So you're going to be the first ones to hear my coin my phrase. Are you ready? I'm calling it 111 New Realtor Way. And I think that what's going to happen is an opportunity for innovation in our space. For realtors to say, okay, out with the old, that's not what we're going to do. How can we find a new way to help buyers and sellers in the real estate process? And I think ultimately it's going to start with a greater transparency and an opportunity for consumers to feel more empowered in their negotiations with their realtors, which this is what it's going to do. It's going to make us as realtors work harder, work better, and be more transparent. We're really going to see the cream rise to the top. And I think that that's been something that has been needed for a very long time. So those that are in the industry for the wrong reasons, they're going to get out, because it's just not going to be that way anymore. As a buyer's rep, you're not going to be making 2.5% to 3% of a purchase price. I just don't think consumers are going to stand for it anymore. And that's how I feel. I don't know. I'd love to hear what you guys think.
Go ahead, John. What do you think?
Well, Sloane, I think you've nailed it. I think that quality is going to just drive this. I think it's good for the consumer. That's my perspective. The mortgage industry went through a similar shakeup years ago, right? And I think it was healthy for the mortgage industry. And I think those that could not cut it are gone. I think, as I recall, close to half of the loan officers after Dodd-Frank were no longer doing loans anymore. And those that are left know what they're doing, and they provide quality services to their clients. So I think you're absolutely right. I think it's good. I would be interested in knowing, I think that there are different avenues that this could take in paying the buyer. Now, is it possible that a seller can say, no, I'm not going to compensate the buyer's agent? Am I correct on that?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So let's say a seller says, I'm not going to compensate the buyer's agent. I'm only going to compensate what position do you think that puts the listing agent in? And what position do you think, what's that going to do for that seller's opportunity to sell? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. I do. I think, you know, I mean, there's so much I think that this could happen or that could happen, but ultimately, here's what I think is interesting. Our job as a realtor is to, our fiduciary responsibility is to help our client get the best that they can, right? And then help them to ultimately close this deal. So if we go to a seller, if I go to a seller and I say, okay, this is the situation, you know, and they're now sellers are going to be able to negotiate with me, right? So seller,
Right.
let's say Mr. 111 New Realtor Way says, all right, Sloane, well, you know, I'm going to give you 3%. That's the commission. I'm not going to pay anything more than that. Well, then we need to now find a way to take that 3% and figure out what we're going to do, whether that be seller concession. So that is still okay. On the MLS, realtors will be able to write seller concessions. So that means sellers can still help with closing costs.
Right.
Right? Sellers can help with things of that nature. So I think those things are going to happen. I think that realtors, listing agents are going to have to say, okay, so now I got 3% to work with. Okay, so then does that mean you give 1.5 away? No, mind you, we can still offer a buyer's compensation. We just cannot put it on the multiple listing service. So when the buyer's agent calls me and says, hi, Sloane, I have a buyer for 111 New Realtor Way. Then on the phone and separately, I can say, okay, great. So by the way, buyer agent, we're doing 1%. I'm doing 0.5%, whatever that is. I'm doing $5,000, right? Because the truth is, buyers are trying to buy, and for the most part, they're not likely to pay out of pocket. We're thinking, I don't know. I think that also could be debatable as well.
You know, Sloane, to
Yeah.
interject there, I think that your lending partner is going to be really integral in this particular solution, because you're right. You know, if a buyer is thinking they're going to increase their costs, they already have their closing costs, and now they have 1 or 1.5 or potentially 2% or more that they're going to pay. That's going to be very difficult for most buyers, unless we can structure the loan in such a way. And the simple version of this right now is if they have a 10% down payment and they qualify well for that, well, maybe then they'll do a 7% down payment and have 3% left over that they can help compensate real estate agents and all of that. So there's a way that the lending partner can help there. I think that the disservice, first of all, I think transparency is good. I think that's really healthy for any industry, and it's all good. I think that the challenge is going to be for the first-time home buyer that is struggling to come up with whatever down payment they can come up with and get into that home, whatever it may be. Right. And I suspect what's going to happen is kind of what you're guiding us to here, is that the seller, if they want to sell their home for top dollar and they want to attract more people to that home, is probably going to elect to work with the agents and come up with some kind of a compensation plan that works. And it's probably going to be a little less for the agents overall, I anticipate. What do you think about that? And I think it's probably going to be good for the consumer.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, my call out to other real estate agents is I mean, similar to what you guys went through, right? Somebody just said recently, it's kind of like, I mean, I love some of my fellow realtors, and be honest too, you know, but it's like some of what's happening right now is they kind of sound, remember travel agents back in the day before the internet?
Yeah.
They all sound like travel agents, you know, before the internet. So it's kind of like we need to, as an industry, as professionals, say, hey, we just called out. Let's take that. Let's go. Okay, we hear you, consumers, because that's what this business is about. My motto has always been clients first, commissions second. Like commission will follow. Client first, commissions will follow. That's what's happening. So we can't keep on going up against the old. We got to say like, okay, how are we going to meet our consumers, our smart consumers, where they are? And they're saying enough is enough. We're done with this 100-year-old way of you guys getting paid. And, you know, these reality shows don't help us any. Just saying. Just saying. I don't know if you watch the Selling Sunset Beverly Hills stuff. Like it's just a bunch of nonsense. It doesn't help. But whatever. That's besides the point. My point is that it really is time for us to, you know, earn what we make. And the consumers are telling us that it's too much. We don't want to do that. Ultimately, if we think about good for the whole, you know, people are like, well, is this gonna, you know, bring the cost of housing down? Are sellers now gonna say, oh, I don't have to pay 6% commission, I just have to pay 3%, so they're gonna reduce the price of their house? I don't think so. That's not gonna happen. Like homes are gonna be priced at what the market is saying they're priced. They're not all of a sudden all these houses are gonna go on discount. But realtors are not gonna make as much money as they did before. Let's just call it what it is.
I think you're right.
Yeah, so if that's what it is, okay, let's all work towards a solution. How do we help home buyers and sellers? And I think you nailed it, John. You know, the most impacted person in this is going to be the first-time home buyer. It's going to be the buyers in a market like Hawaii, where we're competitive, you know, where we lack housing like no other market, and our homes are astronomically priced. We're competing with foreign money, and with, you know, purchasing power that a lot of local people just don't have. So in those situations, those buyers need representation, and they need
Agreed.
good, honest representation. So the question is, how do we bridge that gap? What are we going to do to continue to make sure that our buyers are protected and that they're educated along the way?
Let me interject just one moment, Marcia. We have a chat box going, guys, for those of you on the webinar right now. And I know that there are a couple of people there that are real estate agents that are listening here. So feel free to put something in the meeting chat, either a question or your comment. I'll pass that by Sloane and she can respond to that as well if you want to do so. Thanks.
And thank you, John. So I know this is maybe a little glean of hope or maybe this is something that I know that our Bay Equity is looking at, compliance is looking at, Fannie and Freddie and all the powers out there, is being able to include a seller concession to pay the listing or the buyer's agent.
Oh yeah.
So, because it kind of thought that concessions were for closing costs only, kind of thing. Right. So I think that they're looking at that very, very closely, so that there's going to be a lot of hands in the pot, basically, to come up with a solution that is hopefully a win-win. And you're right, those first-time home buyers, those VA buyers. Oh yeah. A lot of them just don't have extra cash laying around. Yeah, or the FHA buyers, right? Like our VA buyers, our FHA buyers. I think it's really gonna be interesting, like what these agencies do as well. Like we're just gonna have to, we've always said it, right? That we wanna be consultants and educators. And I think more so than ever, it is, if you take this profession seriously and your heart really is for that first time home buyer, like mine is, then, you know, it's a call to action for agents like myself too, like to educate more, to get out there and do more in-depth buyer workshops that really walk buyers through the process. Because ultimately there are going to be some listing agents that just don't offer a commission, that don't offer that, you know, and I mean, my real estate business is unfortunately not a nonprofit, but maybe there can be an arm of it or something, you know, maybe there is going to be a need to be able to help people really, really understand how to
navigate this process. So I think that there will be a solution. I'm really hopeful, and I'm excited actually, because change and innovation, I think, are great. It's a great place to be in. I think it really is. We have a huge opportunity. Right. Yeah.
So I agree with you, Sloane. Comment on this. It seems to me that what's really going to happen here is kind of more of the same, which means this. I suspect that if a buyer's agent has a buyer and they come to a selling agent and they say, look, here's the offer for this house, but inclusive in our offers, we want the seller to pay the buyer's agent's commission of this, and the seller can accept that or not. And probably, the best price is going to rise to the top like always. And it's going to be more transparent, number one, than it was before. And I think that's very healthy. And I suspect you're right, Sloane, that the agents are not going to be splitting 6% anymore. It's probably going to be a smaller number when it all settles out. And I think that that's healthy for the industry as well. Yes. And then those great agents like yourself that know how to provide value to their clients, both buyers and sellers, are going to thrive and do fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think there are many ways that this can still be a great opportunity for buyers. One of the things I will say, I was just listening to a lawyer break down the 130 something pages of the settlement agreement, which, by the way, isn't finalized yet. It's highly likely that it will be, but it hasn't. The court still has to approve it. But part of it was that these buyer rep agreements. So you'll have to sign that with your buyer, and in that buyer rep will have your compensation.
Right.
So this is kind of a thing, and you cannot be paid more than is written in that compensation. So this is, again, transparency, because before I even take my client out to go and look at these houses, which now I don't know what 123 New Realtor Way, 546 New Realtor Way, I don't know what their compensation is yet because it is not on the MLS. However, me and my buyer have already agreed in writing that this is what I'm going to be paid. So then if I go to make an offer on 456 New Realtor Way, and that agent discloses to me that, oh, the seller is prepared to, pay for 2%, but I've already agreed with my buyer that I'm going to get $5,000, that's what it's going to be.
Right.
There's nothing more. So I kind of love that, because talk about transparency and honesty in dealings.
So
no
true.
More is this, realtors are probably going to hate me for saying this stuff, but I really don't care. But it's like, think about this, because I always have thought about this. So I'm going to get paid. But okay, here's the thing that I will say. My dad taught me that the most important thing is your reputation. So it's kind of what I lead, I lead my life that way. I say what I mean what I say. But there has always been something that bothered me in the way that realtors get paid. We get paid based on the purchase price of a house. So if you think about that, if the purchase price is more, the realtor gets paid more. That's kind of it doesn't, you're kind of like, you really have to be a Pono person to go into dealings. You know what I mean? In that way. So now that model is thrown out the window, basically, right? Because we're saying, if I'm going to work with a buyer, we agree ahead of time what I'm going to get paid on. Yeah, it could be a percentage of the purchase price to make things easier. It could be, but that's already written before we make an offer on a home and before we know what that seller is willing to concede. A lot of people are not going to like that, but that's good, because they shouldn't be in this business. To say, right? So, I mean, there you go. Listen, I'm excited about this because for a long time I've had to, or I've dealt with, the reputation of being a realtor. Like, this is the real talk, I mean, there is a statistic out there that realtors are looked less upon than attorneys. Like,
imagine
you don't
that.
have a good reputation. Imagine that. Like,
Right.
we don't have a good reputation because
Yeah.
of the few that ruin it, you know?
Sloane,
So
Sloane, you're right down there with lenders.
no. I disagree. I disagree. You guys are always the saviors at the
Well,
everybody loves their lender. Everybody loves their lender. And shout out to you guys. I mean, I've got so many amazing testimonies. I've been so lucky, so blessed to work with you and John. And yeah, I'll save it for when we're about to wrap so I can gush on the two of you. But anyways, that's my spiel with this whole NAR thing. I think it's great for the industry. I'm excited to see the leaves fall from the tree, so to speak. And we'll see what's left or who's left. And we're in for more transparent real estate. I think this is going to be great for Hawaii. I really do.
Good. So, Marsha, can we move this over to Hawaii real estate for our audience just a little bit, or do you have any other particular questions you wanted to ask Sloane?
Well, I have two very important questions, but I can reserve those for the end. So I don't know what you really mean by move it over to Hawaii real estate.
Let's talk about real estate in Hawaii. That's where you're at, Sloane.
Okay.
And you're on the island of Kauai, correct?
Yep. I go between Oahu and Kauai. Yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Tell me, what do you think, what's going to happen with real estate in Hawaii? Are there any sweet spots in particular for our clients who are looking to purchase in Hawaii? And what are the challenges that you may see in the market right now? Do you think we're having a great market this year? You know, rates are projected to come down. Is that going to help? Just give us your overall analysis of what you think is going to happen with real estate in Hawaii focus this year.
Sure. Great. Sweet spots. So what I have been seeing, just, being in the field, is what I've been calling this transfer of generational wealth. So, we have this generation now that is passing away, and the kids are inheriting the home. But what's happening is a lot of those kids already live on the mainland. They've moved to the mainland. So now they're selling these old homes that maybe, haven't been lived in for a while, or, mom and dad haven't been able to upkeep it. And so I've seen a lot of that happening, especially, in places like Wailua, the North Shore area, more rural areas, this generational passage of wealth. That's kind of what I'm calling it. So I think those are some of the sweet spots. I mean, you're not getting a huge deal. They're still $1 million plus. But it's really interesting to see that. And I think in Hawaii, it's kind of tied to, that ongoing housing crisis problem where so many local people have moved away to the mainland. And they've raised their families now there, and they're not in a position to come back. So that's kind of been really interesting. Interest rates, of course, are going to help us in general. So we're happy that those are coming down. I think the one thing about Hawaii real estate is that, not much changes and everything kind of changes all at once. We are Hawaii, and we're not going to make any more land. The governor has, is doing what he can do to help to spike the building of affordable housing, but still that's nothing, you don't just like snap your fingers and, 500 houses get built. It just doesn't work that way. And then, we can get into all the problems with affordable housing, but we won't do that because we don't have time here. But, so there's all of this, the political climate. I think it's an election year too. So, that doesn't help. But here's what I think. Ultimately, my answer to this is always, there is never the perfect time to buy or sell your home. The perfect time is when you're ready. Regardless if interest rates are 9%, 20%, 5%, or 4%. Because in life, right, those 5 Ds, death, divorce, diapers, like when any of those things come up and you're deciding to sell or buy, your life is the dictator of when the perfect time is for you. And then you get professionals around you like myself, like Marsha, like John, like some of the other realtors that I admire. You get people around you to consult you and to help you to navigate whatever time of life you're in. So we're not going to have a perfect time, you know, your perfect time is going to be when you have to do it. And the best thing that you can do is have people that you trust and that are educated and professionals around you so that you can have the best outcome possible. You know, I think that that's what it is. But I will say specific to Hawaii, sorry, there is a lot of political, I don't know what the word is. It's like there's a lot
Unrest.
of political unrest, a lot of pilikia. There's a lot going on. You know, Brenton Awa introduced a bill recently. It just got killed in regards to prohibiting foreign buyers in Hawaii. I think they said last year there were 123 sales. This was just with title guarantee, 123 sales of foreign buyers. When I say foreign, I think it's important for people in Hawaii to understand they're talking about foreign entities, like not citizens of the United States. So you still can have a green card, you could still purchase property. And the reason it got killed is because the potential lawsuits of this being unconstitutional. So many local people wanted this because they felt like it could be a step in the right direction. But I think ultimately this kind of has to be taken up in Washington, you know, so that's a whole nother issue. But when we talk about Hawaii real estate, my heart really is helping local families, people that have lived here and want to buy here. They call Hawaii home. They pay taxes here. They raise their kids here. Like those are the people that I want to help. I want them to be able to own a piece of the place that they love. And that's going to take so much from so many people for so many more generations, you know. Can I say one thing? Because I don't know who's going to watch this. I just want to say this because this is something that is real and just happened. So I'm a Native Hawaiian realtor, and I just recently had the opportunity to help a family sell land that was in their ohana for over 100 years, back in the Great Mahele. I got called out. I was posting this. I was sharing it on my social media to help to sell this land. And some other people had posted like, I hope you sell this to a Hawaiian family. I hope you sell this to a local family. What I think the general population needs to understand as realtors, I am bound by federal fair housing laws. So Hawaii is a part of the United States. I am a licensed realtor. I cannot discriminate based on age, sex, gender, nationality. So if a buyer comes to me, I have to provide every viable offer to my sellers. We cannot discriminate or it's against the law. So that's what these laws, this is what our government in Hawaii is trying to do, but we really are up against a mountain. And so the consumer also needs, or not the consumer, but like, we also need to understand that everybody in Hawaii is trying to get ahead. So yes, you may see this family selling this land and think, gosh, why couldn't they hold on to it? Well, because they're selling for a reason. And guess what? When they are able to sell, this is now going to help to bless their family, right? So it's like, I understand it's a double-edged sword and we see this and it's hard and we don't understand, but my message to everybody is like, you never know the whole story of what someone is going through. And we just have to malama each other and really take a moment and take a pause and know that, and just understand that this is a problem that we've faced for generations. And it's one that people like myself and like we are trying to do everything that we can. It just is not going to happen overnight. So yeah.
Can I ask one more question in the affordable housing arena? So I'll analogize this with what's happening on the West Coast. So Seattle and King County in the last year have made it so, this may be a little oversimplification, but close to, that any single family residence in the Seattle area can be made into what we call over here an ADU, okay? That's an accessory dwelling unit. So that's an extra unit that you can put in there. It's made it a wonderful opportunity for investors. They love that, but it's a wonderful opportunity for anybody who's a homeowner. And the goal here is to help satisfy the affordability problem for housing in Seattle, which is out of sight, like other places too. So that means that you can take a garage, or you can even construct a tiny home or something of that nature in your backyard and rent that out. And conceivably, if it's done properly, you can do the CPR kind of thing that you do in Hawaii. You will be able to we call it condominiumize it here and sell the unit separately from the house, which allows potentially a lot more housing available, if not for sale, at least for rent, for people that want a place that they can live, right? Is there anything like that happening in Hawaii that you guys know of now that we should be aware of?
Yeah, well, they, a while ago, actually, meaning the, Department of Planning and Permitting, the government had reduced the fees for ADR, for additional dwelling units or additional rental units, they're calling it, and help to streamline that process. So get that stamp of approval so that they can move forward with building ADUs on your property. One of the main problems is zoning and land use in Hawaii. So, right now you can build a ADU on your property if it is 5,000 square feet or more. And then there are size limits to that ADU that you can build. We also have what's called ohana dwellings, where you can expand your house, via a bridgeway or something like that. But again, it depends on what your zoning is. So yes and no. And then, the cost to build, a dear friend of mine, several of them are general contractors, and wow. I mean, the cost to build an ADU, it's the cost per square foot, I think, is over, don't quote me on this, the last time I talked to one of my GCs, it was over $300 and something per square foot, right? So there's that. But they have done what they can to streamline the process, and they are working with, the government has worked with DPP to prioritize more of that. They've also done, just recently too, jobs under a certain amount of money electrical jobs or upgrades or things of that nature, you're able to go online and get an approval, as opposed to waiting, years sometimes to get a building permit. That's been the red tape.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sloane.
Mm-hmm. Good question. I love it.
So, Sloane, we're wrapping up on an hour here. So I just wanted to say a couple things and I've asked you a couple questions. But if you're on YouTube watching this, please, like our YouTube channel. We're trying to grow our audience. There's a lot of content on there. John does lots and lots of content, and I will be supporting him with that as well. So we would really like to just get our YouTube channel, enhance it if you can. And Sloane is, I don't know another agent that has the reputation she has. And her I think one of her number one skill sets is negotiating. I've seen her negotiate deals getting buyers into houses that they're getting a loan against a cash offer and even at a better price point. So if you're in that arena, this is the lady for you. And so here is my last two questions for you, Sloane. If you can tell us one thing about Sloane Kini that nobody knows. One fun fact.
Jeez. Well, then everybody will know if I tell you that nobody knows. Oh man, something that nobody knows. Well, I'm pretty much an open book.
That opened it right up.
Here's what I'll say. I wish that I had something fun to say, you know, like somebody, like I was like a ballerina in a past life or something. I wasn't. I would say that something that maybe your audience doesn't know is that I actually attest a lot of my entrepreneurial journey to, is that I was a young mom. So I had my oldest son, who's 25. My goodness, he's going to be 26. When I was a teenager, I was 17. I was a junior in high school. And I know that part of the reason I've kind of approached life as a business owner with this can-do and problem-solving attitude that really has gotten me to where I am today, which is a good place, is that adversity and, you know, being a mom so young and having to really navigate a path on my own, and kind of like, you know, beat the odds, so to speak, not just for myself, but obviously ultimately for him. It just has become the fabric of my being, right? So it's like, when I look at hard deals, like you just mentioned, Marsha, and I don't mean to talk all like big about myself, but the truth is, when it is true, like I sometimes I wish my deals were easier, to be honest. But I tend to have these like Marsha knows, I tend to have these like complicated, you know, deals, and it's like stress, and it just sometimes, you know, I'm working the best angles and just trying to jump through hoops, and that's just who I am. It's just my makeup. I've got tough skin. I'm not, you know, I wrote a book, and the book is called You Can Do Hard Things. I joke because I was like, the next book I write is going to be called You Can Do Easy Things. I would like to have a little bit more easy sometimes. But I guess that's what I would just say, you know, that, yeah, it all comes from that. And I'm so grateful for it. I'm so grateful for every obstacle and every hard thing that I've had to go through, because it really does fortify, you know, who you are, who I am today.
And thank you for being so authentic, Sloane.
Marsha, before your last question, we do have a question from the audience here.
Sure.
Wendy wants to know, I've been looking at purchasing property in Hawaii and have seen a number of properties that are for sale and have a leasehold attached to it. I'm wondering if you can explain what that means.
Oh, good question. Well, two types of properties in Hawaii. We have leaseholds, and then we have fee simple. So basically what a leasehold is, you are buying the lease. So you don't necessarily, you own it for the life of the lease. So you'll want to look there, maybe it's, you know, there's 8 years left, 30 years left, 40 years left. It just depends on what that is. And that's the length of time that you're buying that ownership of the property. Fee simple is you own it, and you own it until you sell it, or, you know, leave it to somebody else. You own it for the life of the property, basically. That's the biggest difference. The simplest way to say it. You'll notice in Hawaii that a lot of the leasehold properties, that's why they're a lot more affordable. There's a lot of condos on the east side in Waikiki. You'll see that very popular, where you can get a studio for, you know, $98,000 or something like that for the most part, if you're seeing any of those properties in those price points, they probably are leaseholds. Again, you're only buying it for the term of the lease.
And can you buy the fee when you look at a leasehold property?
Sometimes the fee is available. So that means you know, for an additional amount, you can buy it and turn it into a fee simple property basically. And sometimes it is not available. So you have to do your due diligence and discover that.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sloane.
Yep.
And one last comment on that, Wendy. If you're looking for a loan to buy, they're very, very hard to finance.
Yeah.
Many of them you cannot get loans on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so here is the last question for you, Miss Sloane.
Okay.
If Elon Musk is knocking on your door,
Okay.
and you answer and he says, "Hey, Sloane Kini, I got one seat left on the SpaceX Starship to Mars." What's going to be your answer, Sloane, and why? And it's yours, by the way.
Oh God. Yes. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. Absolutely. I would go 100%. Would I? Oh my gosh. I just said that without even thinking. I just said that. That was like I was like, yes, I will. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, would I? I don't know. I watched that Netflix documentary though. I did watch it and I thought, wow, how cool is that? What a once in a lifetime opportunity. I'd have to make sure that it was okay with my family.
I think that would be smart.
I probably need to confer with them first, but I would want to. That's the truth. I would want to. I think like how cool would that be? But I would have to talk to them first. Oh, God.
Wow, that's a great answer. It's a little surprised, but that really speaks to your character. You're just like jump in and try it kind of girl.
I did. Yeah, I was like, sure. And then I freaked out. And I was like, oh my gosh, wait, I don't know. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, I see the time running out, and I just want to say this before we leave. Thank you for being my trusted lending partners. And I mean that from my heart, not just in my own family, in my own homes, with my clients. I always know that I can count on you to be honest and fair. And your reputation is fantastic. And it feels so great to be aligned with people that have a similar heart. So for many of you guys that are watching that don't know this, Marsha has been one of not just a dear friend of mine, but I consider her a mentor and an advisor. And you know, what I think is a true testament to any business dealing with anybody is somebody that's willing to tell you, I don't know if this is going to be the best thing that I can offer you. Maybe you should go somewhere else. You know, maybe it's better over here. I think that that is the true testament to someone's character in business in general. And so it's something that I hold near and dear to my heart too. And I just want to thank you for teaching me that honesty and transparency. And I'm excited for all that's to come. This year is going to be exciting.
Well, thank you, Sloane. That your words are really appreciated, and right back at you. And yes, it's going to be an exciting year.
Thank you, guys.
Well,
John,
thanks
do you
for
have any
two
parting
dynamic
words?
ladies here, Marcia and Sloane. Sloane, thanks for being so transparent. Thanks for being so candid. Thanks for adding all kinds of value with your knowledge. We always appreciate that. I even got a comment here. We need to bring her back on and dig deeper into some of that. So we might have to do that a little bit later for you, okay?
Do. Awesome.
All right. And thanks, guys, for those of you on the webinar with us today. Thanks for participating. YouTube audience, like the video, subscribe to the channel. There's more of this coming your way. Lots more. We have some good stuff coming. And reach out to any of us. You'll see our contact information on the screen. If you want to talk to Sloane about real estate in Hawaii, just give her a call or send an email. We'll make it easy for you. Thanks, guys.